The eel catch is down by 60 to 70%.
Mar Menor, Europe's largest saltwater lagoon, is dying.
I just wish I could take a tractor and destroy it all.
It's a battle of unequals, local residents versus the mighty agricultural industry.
No filming, this is all private property.
It is 6:30 in the morning at the port of San Pedro del Pinatar on the lagoon of Mar Menor in southeastern Spain. For generations, some 150 families have earned a living fishing these waters. But for Juan Tarraga and his colleague Fulgencio, today might be their last trip out. For them, it's a journey into the unknown. The local fishing community is both witness and victim of an ecological catastrophe. Europe's largest saltwater lagoon, Mar Menor, was once an underwater paradise. It is separated from the Mediterranean by a narrow sandbar about 22 kilometers long. Juan and Fulgencio keep 8 nets anchored here, which they bring in every morning. For the past 2 years, Juan says, each day has seen fewer fish than the day before.
There's so much dead algae down there. Our nets are full of it. It wasn't like this before. All we net are dead plants, no fish. That's our biggest problem here in Mar Menor.
A thick soup of phytoplankton and microalgae clouds the water, robbing the vegetation on the seabed of the light it needs to survive. Dead vegetation now drifts through the water like refuse.
Should we clean the nets?
They're so dirty, what else can we do?
Concern is growing that Mar Menor may be just a step away from proliferating colonies of harmful toxin-producing algae. Thus far, the lagoon has been spared, but fishing nets are still empty.
We go out every morning, but we don't have a lot of hope. There won't be much of a catch. It wasn't like this before, but that's just how it is. There aren't many fish left in Mar Menor.
Arco Sur at the southern tip of Mar Menor is the most polluted part of the lagoon. Coastal residents are also worried, like Angel Monedero. For a long time, he says, he has been watching as fallow land near his home has been vanishing under vast canopies of plastic, including areas that are under natural protection. Eventually, he filed suit against the agricultural companies. Since then, the retired soldier has been receiving anonymous threats on the phone and on social media.
For me, this is a war zone, hostile territory, a place where I no longer wish to live. I'm very angry, and I wish I could just take a tractor and get rid of it all. That's how I feel. Why? Because this is where I chose to live out my days, and they're forcing me to leave. They're turning me into an environmental refugee. Where should I go? Everything I own has gone into my house, and now it's not worth anything anymore. What else can I do? Where else can I go?
Angel and other local residents feel betrayed. They say regional authorities are ignoring the local farming industry in favor of a handful of agro-industry multinationals. The arid soil has become an assembly line. 4 harvests a year, made possible with heavy use of plastic sheeting, irrigation, fertilizer and pesticides.
The melons are under another layer of sheeting, like in a greenhouse. They're headed straight for France, Germany, England, Belgium, Luxembourg. This is the negative side of the vegan farming industry. Why? Because they're destroying my environment. And all their nitrates and phosphates will ultimately destroy Mar Menor.
Juan and Fulgencio have finished removing all the vegetation from their nets. Now they're returning with the day's catch, a poultry one. They know that the days in which they could earn a living by fishing are numbered.
If we fishermen die out, I've always said, it's just like with the honeybees. If they die out, then all life will die out with them. It's the same with us. We've always been here, since time immemorial. We can't allow this to happen. If the sea dies here, then everything will vanish along with it. The entire region.
Just 2 years ago, the daily catch here was still plentiful. Much to Juan's delight, the langostino shrimp harvest was better than ever. But that record harvest was the first sign of a dramatic change. Just 1 year later, the boom became a bust. At first, Juan had no idea what was behind this change. He had just a vague sense of unease that he might be one of the last generations here to earn a living from fishing. Back on land, the fish auction gets underway at 10:30. Prices are hammered out in the lonja, the old fish market. The customers, wholesalers and restaurant owners are all familiar faces. Juan and Fulgencio are running late. They lost a lot of time clearing their nets. Then comes the moment of truth. The catch will be weighed, theirs and those of the other fishermen. Prices, and thus their day's take, are determined by supply and demand.
Today we'll probably earn about 150 euros or so. But after deducting fuel and all our other costs, I doubt anything will be left over. We might not even break even. It all depends on the auction.
Fearing for their livelihoods, Juan and the other fishermen have joined forces with local residents. They hope Angel Monedero will help them with their battle.
Hola, Jesus. Juan, how are you?
Hanging in there.
How's work going?
Well, you know what it's like. The fish industry is dying.
When it comes to the lagoon, these guys are on the front lines. We used to have 23 species of fish there. Now only 3 have a yield worth mentioning. The fishermen will be the next to go. And they tell me that Mar Menor is sick. It has a fever.
We fishermen are in constant contact with the residents. Angel is the coordinator. We exchange information by phone and WhatsApp. That way, we're always up to date.
Angel and Juan lay the blame for the looming environmental catastrophe at the foot of the large agro companies which now dominate the region.
Until recently, say 2009 or so, all we had here was traditional farming without irrigation and fallow land. But around 2010, the local agricultural industry changed profoundly. All the fields you see here were switched from traditional farming to intensively irrigated farmland, as far as the eye can see.
The use of irrigation here in one of Spain's most arid regions was accompanied by the increasing use of synthetic fertilizers.
Mar Menor is the catch basin for the wastewater for many, many thousands of hectares of agricultural land. It all flows into the Mar Menor. Someone should have noticed that the nitrate levels were going through the roof.
Intensive farming wouldn't be possible here without irrigation. Many of the wells that pump water from deep underground are illegal. As groundwater levels decline, seawater seeps in, as do nitrates from the fields. Illegal desalination plants remove nitrates from the groundwater. The concentrated wastewater is sent into the floodwater channels, or ramblas, that surround the fields near Mar Menor. Angel retraced the origins of the illegal wastewater and collected evidence of the agro-industry's activities. The regional environmental ministry promised residents it would put a halt to the illegal practice. Cero vertidos, no wastewater. But as Angel and photographer Isaac Garcia discovered, this was nothing but an empty promise.
They set up this wall so that we can't see the wastewater headed to the lagoon.
Yes, to hide it.
Exactly, to hide it. People walking down by the water can't see the wastewater up here. They built a kind of catch basin which is supposed to prevent the wastewater from flowing into the sea. But in reality, the wastewater level is far too high. It's flooding out of the basin and flowing into the sea without having been purified. All the fertilizer is still in the water.
This is a rambler, a dry canal, not a riverbed. It hardly ever rains here, so there shouldn't be any water. But there's always water here, a small river.
A small river of agricultural runoff. The wall intended to contain the wastewater is so low that it spills over the barrier even now during the dry season. When it rains, there's often flooding. The pool of nitrate-laden water behind the barrier washes unchecked into the lagoon. The dense vegetation on the Ramla near the beach is another sign that water laden with fertilizers is flowing across the area, the Environmental Ministry's promises notwithstanding.
This entire soup ends up in Mar Menor, and it all comes from the fields.
That's wastewater from the fields. It's terrible stuff, full of nitrates and phosphates, full of pesticides and all the stuff they use in farming. And this is where it ends up.
Until recently, the lagoon was adjoined by a wide area of arid wasteland extending for several kilometers. The sparse vegetation also helped prevent erosion. Now rain washes mud from the fields into the lagoon, and the fields extend almost to the beach. The local farmers are out of work. Thousands of field workers, many of them from North Africa, are instead brought in to work as day laborers. Isaac often heads out with his camera to document the changes underway in the lagoon and surrounding region.
Mar Menor is very important to me. I'm forced to watch our paradise vanish before my very eyes. Today we can see the harvest. I'll take a quick picture.
Isaac has to hurry. Photographers are not welcome guests here. Agricultural companies have already come under fire for employing workers illegally. The companies that put their brand names on the products that supply Europe's supermarkets want to avoid negative publicity.
That's a field of lettuce. The workers are packaging it right on the field, then it goes into boxes, and from there to supermarkets across Europe. From field to shop.
What are you doing? This is private property, not public. There are people who are up to no good. We don't know if you want to use your pictures to damage the company.
I'm not out looking for evidence. If it were up to me, I wouldn't be doing this at all. I just happen across these scenes. I go for a walk, and this is the kind of stuff I see. The damage they're doing is evident all around us. For a long time, I tried to keep these ugly images out of my photos until I reached the point where I could no longer remain silent. I can't do that anymore.
The Murcia region is Europe's largest greenhouse. The industry creates jobs and helps fill tax coffers. It comes as little surprise that regional and national authorities prefer to turn a blind eye to the link between the agro-industry and the destruction of Mar Menor. Juan Manuel Ruiz and other scientists at the Spanish Institute of Oceanography are studying the ecosystem of Mar Menor. The agricultural industry is not the only source of pollutants in the lagoon. Heavy metals from old mines, the building boom of the 1970s and tourism also account for their share. But the dramatic developments of recent years are new and different.
These plants form a kind of miniature underwater forest and provide oxygen. More than 80% of this vegetation has now died.
The role of the agricultural industry in this process is now a political issue. The scientists who strive to be independent have been caught in the crossfire.
As environmental researchers, we're always under pressure. So there's always lots of pressure from the political side and from interest groups. A number of things are contributing to the environmental problems, but the main culprit is the agricultural industry. That's confirmed by our data and by our research.
The government has asked the scientists to confirm their findings with additional samples and readings. Marine scientists have come from across Spain to help with the research. The divers immediately see that the harmful phytoplankton bloom has become so dense that visibility is down to just a few centimeters. The camera images show that the water is so overladen with nutrients that it has reached a tipping point, a process called eutrophication. Local residents now call the waters sopa verde, the green soup. Light can no longer reach the seabed. Most of the algae crucial to the health of the lagoon has died, and with it, the spawning grounds that sustain fish stocks.
In the past, our team has documented the presence of pesticides and other toxins in the lagoon. They're also evident in other coastal regions in Spain. What's different here is that this lagoon is very shallow. There's not enough water to dilute the toxins. So, we find them in higher concentrations here in Mar Menor than out on the open water.
The scientists' findings have raised the alarm among local residents. Many here make a living from tourism. They're worried that the bad news could keep visitors away. Alongside agriculture, tourism is the region's largest employer. That's also prompted local officials to direct sharp criticism at Angel Monedero and the other activists.
Look, the mayor's just posted this on Facebook. He says, in the Mar Menor Special Commission, I asked the opposition to stop spreading lies. Mar Menor is not polluted. I'm aware that there's a group of people who seek to benefit by spreading these shocking reports which have no basis in fact. They want to keep people from coming here to relax and enjoy our natural paradise. That will harm many local businesses, and people will no longer be able to feed their families. That's the kind of stuff he's writing.
What's amazing is that he calls the allegations unfounded. That's unbelievable.
What about the 17 beaches that have had to take down their flags? Is that our fault, or is it due to the condition of the water? Soon they'll be saying we ordered the swimming ban. What ignorant imbeciles.
To raise awareness of the problems caused by large-scale farming, Isaac and the other Mar Menor activists are planning a demonstration at a major agricultural company. They're receiving support from several environmental organizations.
We're taking on a subsidiary of a British company. They export to Germany, Austria, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and 9 other EU countries. It's number 1 in the production of salad greens and number 3 in celery production.
They're responsible for so much destruction, so much death, just so that someone in another country can buy a melon for €1. It's shameful.
The problem is, once these large companies have plundered and destroyed our natural resources, then they'll just move on. And they'll do exactly the same thing somewhere else.
They don't care one whit about that. The English want their salad, the Germans want their salad, and so do the French. Germans don't care if they destroy Spain or the fields of Murcia in the process. It's not their country that's being destroyed.
The seahorse has become the symbol of their battle to preserve Mar Menor. The next day, the activists bring their banners to the gates of the company. This is where the trucks head out to supply supermarkets across Europe.
Mar Menor vivo.
They chant Mar Menor vivo, long live Mar Menor.
You know that the state's attorney is investigating this company for contributing to the pollution of Mar Menor. That's why we're here. We're here because we must save Mar Menor. Long live Mar Menor. We're defending Mar Menor.
In a written statement, the company in question, Ches España, said that it seeks to maintain the highest environmental standards. One of the water treatment facilities in question was closed in May 2016. If necessary, the company says it will also undertake other measures to protect the environment.
It's a battle between David and Goliath. We're pretty much on our own here. We're fighting without the support of much of the population. That's what we really need. We need many people if we want to stop this destruction. We won't get anywhere if we can't win them over.
One of the people missing at the demonstration was Juan Taraga. He hasn't told his friends yet, but he's hanging up his fishing nets for good. He's investing in a new business that he hopes will have a better future. Angel and Isaac are here to talk to him.
We had a demonstration yesterday at an agricultural company. We wish you would have been there.
Easy for you to say. I couldn't. I have to get this business going. I have no choice.
I know.
I've got my pension to think of.
But this is a passenger boat?
For excursions, for tourists.
Tourists?
People on holiday.
But you can't go fishing in this, right?
No, not with this.
If people who make their living from Mar Menor have to figure out a new alternative, then things look pretty grim for us.
There's no argument from Juan Taraga. As the conversation ends, the mood turns somber. The farewell is more than a simple parting, it's a premonition of loss, as Angel sings a song in honor of the lagoon of Mar Menor.